My friend Sam told me about a saint that I really want to talk about on the podcast, but he didn't die in a gruesome way. You know how saints usually die in a really gruesome way, and that's why they're saints?
Yeah, they have to be martyred in some way.
Yeah,
right?
He died in kind of like a banal way. So, not to say that anyone's death is banal, but his name was Joseph of Cupertino. And why I am kind of obsessed with him is that his whole thing was that he could levitate.
What?
Yeah, he could levitate. But when you read further into these levitations, it sounds like it was not really levitating. Like he would, during mass, he would have these spontaneous levitations. And people were at first very in awe of it. Like his religious piety makes him levitate. But then they kind of turned their feelings on him and were like, he's a witch. Put him into jail. And he eventually got out of jail. Like I said, died probably of old age or around that. But what I find the funniest about him is that when historians have looked back at the accounts of his pious divine leaping, I have a quote. This is from Robert D. Smith in his book Comparative Miracles, 1965. So he says that some of his alleged levitations, quote, originate from a leap and not from a prone or simple standing or kneeling position. The witnesses mistook a leap of a very agile man for levitation.
He just jumped really high and they're like, wow, he's in the air for a long time. This must be levitation, right?
Yeah, from what we can kind of pull from that quote is that he would run and leap. He wasn't doing it from sitting and he wasn't doing it from lying down or standing. He was running and would leap. And I just don't think that's levitation.
No, I think that's just manic energy on the pulpit.
Right? But because of this, he is the patron saint of aviation, pilots, astronauts.
The fuck?
Wait, mental handicaps, not my words, examinations, and students.
Because he leapt? I'm not following.
Well,
what?
Well, he was also said to be, by some accounts, by the fellow monks, he was said to be, quote, remarkably unclever.
So this was
the man was historical record dumb.
So he would be just he was using physical comedy to get his point across, is what I'm getting from this.
I think people saw him leap one time and were like, it's so beautiful.
I guess he's levitating.
God. Yeah.
See, I don't think he deserves sainthood.
Really?
No.
Really?
Hot take, I guess. No, I don't think that's enough.
You don't think spontaneous levitation and ecstatic visions are enough?
Well, the visions, that's another thing. Maybe.
I'm sorry, I brought the visions in. They were new. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, it just said he died. But he did? Okay. Throughout his life, he ate solid food only twice a week. And he added bitter powders to his meals.
I'm not a fan of this guy.
Are you kidding? I love this guy. He's on another level. What is he doing? I don't know. But when he leaps, people like it so much, they made him a saint. They liked it, they hated it, and then they loved it again.
You all are wild for that one, Catholics.
In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. My name is Sophie, along for the ride, Schwartz.
And my name is Katelyn. This story will upset you, heart. And we're here to talk about bones, bone-related topics, true crime, current crime, historical mysteries. You know, we kind of talk about whatever saints that may or may not have earned it.
Yeah, I believe that in our catalog, we do have some episodes about saints and saint bodies. I believe we have a whole episode on Santa's bones. Check that out.
Yeah, we do, because at some point, so when Chris and I go to bed, it's always like a YouTube rabbit hole that lulls us to sleep. And one time something showed up that was about the Santa bones. And I was like, what the fuck?
Hey.
I've heard this before. Like, sometimes things will autoplay and then you're like, what? Where am I? What is this? When you wake up, if you forget to put a sleep timer on, you know, those are very important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One time Joe put us to sleep to a horror video game soundtrack, and I woke up to some very intense music. Was like, I have to turn this off. Something's gonna come out of this darkness and fucking eat me.
The dreams are not good.
The dreams
they can't
are not
be good.
doing good, yeah.
Even if you don't remember them, you're just like, what's going on?
Have you lost your husband-to-be to Resident Evil 9 yet?
He did stream it for a solid, 10 hours the other day. He wanted to do it all in one sitting, but wasn't quite able to.
My guy is 20 hours in and we're not still done, so.
Damn. Yeah, I have not participated in any of it. The things that I heard him shouting from his office were weird and scary, though.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, very scary, terrifying, upsetting game. But I've been really enjoying it. I've been watching a lot of it, and I suggest any horror video game fans to play it.
And if you have a Switch, the new Kirby game is very fun.
And where would they go if they wanted to watch someone play games?
It's twitch.tv/Galestrom, Galestrom, is my man. And he's also on YouTube doing some cool stuff too.
Hell yeah. You've got the helm, Katelyn.
Yeah, this week we're going to be talking about a very sad case. This took place in 1960, so a ways off. But yeah, I just want to preface this with a trigger warning. We are going to talk about sexual assault. And if you have religious trauma on top of that, this is really not going to be the episode for you. So today I'm going to talk about the murder of Irene Garza, and my sources were multiple articles from CBS. There was a 48 hours episode about this case that really turned things around in the case. And then a press release from Paramount about the 48 hours episode, a murder case study by Leon Poodles with one O. And this was published by the Crossland Foundation. Sorry, Mr. Poodles. And then I also listened to an episode of a podcast called Southern Fried True Crime. This takes place in Texas. Okay, so Irene Garza was born in 1934. She went to McAllen High School, where she became a drum majorette, which I had to look up because I didn't know what that was. It is the specifically woman in front of a marching band with a baton who's leading the marching band, and there's baton twirling and all, you're kind of the face of the marching band, I feel like.
My mom was a majorette.
Stop. So
yes.
You knew exactly what that was.
Yes, and she used to teach me how to twirl her baton when I was a little girl. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I wished that my school had majorettes because it seems like a lot of fun. You get to march, you get to wear sparkly outfits and have big hair, or at least you did in the 1970s.
Any majorettes out there, please write in.
Yeah.
So Irene was the first Mexican-American woman at that high school to do that.
Damn.
She was also the first person in her family to go to college and graduate.
That's amazing.
So she was active in the Legion of Mary, which I didn't look up, but it's something Catholic. And she sounded like just like a kind-hearted, kind soul. She taught second grade in a low-income school, and she specifically like wanted to work with low-income children. And she often would spend part of her paychecks on like clothes and books for her students that couldn't afford those things. So she sounded like she was a really just sweet person, kind, loving. She wanted to get married. You know, she was a devout Catholic. She wanted to get married and have a big Catholic family. So in the spring of 1960, she wrote this very chilling passage of a letter to her friend that I'm going to read to you. Quote, "Remember the last time we talked? I told you I was afraid of death. Well, I am cured. I no longer fear death. I have been going to Mass and communion every day, and you can't imagine the courage, the faith, and happiness it has given me." Yeah. It's just a really chilling thing to have written so soon before your death.
She wrote that to a friend?
Yeah.
I would be very concerned if I was that friend.
Well, she meant it that like she had all of these like questions and she was fearful, but that going to church was making her less fearful and giving her faith and courage and happiness. And like she really enjoyed going to church, and she got a lot of like comfort from that. So she was no longer afraid of death, I guess. Now we're going to get into her murder case. I'm going to start with kind of the like high level points of the case, take you through it. And then at the end, we're going to circle back and talk about some details more carefully. Again, it's April 16th, 1960. Sacred Heart Church is very busy because it's Holy Saturday. There are 3 priests that are like regular priests of the church, and then a visiting priest, a man whose name we're going to know very well in this story, John Feit. He's the visiting priest. So they're hearing confession. It's Holy Saturday before Easter, I believe. And on this day, Irene called her best friend Maria and said, let's go to a movie tonight. I just want to hit up confession first. Which is a sentence I've never said. But according to some of the sources, she got a lot out of going to confession. Like, her family said that she would go whether or not she really needed it. It just brought her a lot of comfort. So she made plans to meet with her friend, and then she called Sacred Heart, hoping to speak with Father Richard Junius. She wanted to talk to him about her confession. She was also organizing an Easter egg hunt for kids at the church. So
that's so sweet.
She may have been calling to talk to him about that. John Feit answered the phone and said that Father Junius was busy, but that he could hear her confession. So she drove to Sacred Heart Church, met with John Feit. I don't know if it's Feet or Fate. I'm going to say F-E-I-T. I think it's Fate. Fate sounds right.
I don't know why I thought she was going to give the confession over the phone.
That's a very New Age thing.
I don't know.
I think it's the 60s. I think she was just I think calling to see if someone was available.
Well, I assumed that she would go to the church, but then you were she called him on the phone. I was like, oh, on the phone. That's cool.
Well, I'm not a Catholic, but I have a feeling that being in the box where you do the confessional, I feel like that's probably part of it.
Yeah. I would assume that's an important part, but I was just it was a funny assumption that I made in my mind to be oh, on the phone, how modern, a modern woman.
Yeah, woman of the world. She doesn't have time for your shit. She just needs to quickly confess.
Later, she's going to hit up confession, then she's going to go to the movies. Maybe she doesn't have time to go to the church. I don't know.
Well, she made time. She, it was really important to her.
Hell yeah.
So witnesses did see her in the church, but they also saw her going to the rectory, which is a a place off of the church. John Feit would later say, like, oh, yeah, like, she wanted to get her confession taken in the rectory, but I was like, no, you should go to church for that. But yeah, so basically, no one ever saw her leave the rectory after that. So she never met her friend for the movie. And then when she hadn't returned to her home, she lived with her parents. At midnight, they, of course, started to worry.
Yeah.
By 2:30, they had started a search for her, and they found her car a couple of blocks from church. And it sounds like they lived pretty close to the church as well. This visiting pastor, John Feit, is alleged to have made several trips in the parish car that evening. Pastor Joseph O'Brien was suspicious of him. He kept making all these excuses for why he needed to leave or go somewhere. And he also alleges that he saw scratches on John Feit's hands. The Reverend tried to follow John Feit, but like lost him in traffic. And then this Reverend also searched the basement and attic of the rectory, but didn't find anything. So I guess he just dropped it.
Interesting. But I think it's interesting that he noted that he was being weird.
He had those feelings and he tried to like suss out if something was wrong, but then he lost him in traffic.
Okay, and then he dropped it, I guess.
So 3 days later, a pedestrian finds Irene's shoe, her purse, and her mantilla just on a road nearby. Had to look that up too. A mantilla is the lace veil that Spanish women traditionally wear to like mass or holy events. A couple days after that, on April 21st, 1960, Irene's body was found in a canal. She had unfortunately been beaten, raped, and suffocated. So the police drain the canal and they find a portable photographic slide viewer.
Okay.
Now, in my mind, I'm picturing like that big thing where you put the pictures, the slides in, and then somebody goes click, click, and then it like projects your picture onto the wall. So police thought that possibly the cord had been tied around Irene's body as a weight to keep it from floating. But long story short, this portable photographic slide viewer belonged to John Feit. He told police, "Oh, that's mine."
Okay. And did he have more to say?
No.
Really?
And police didn't seem to have any other questions either.
Really? She's
told you the
found
story.
with her fucking his slide projector cord around her neck in a fucking canal, and there's no other questions that you've got.
No, they're okay with it. They also find candlesticks from Sacred Heart Church, but the sources that I read said that the police made, quote, no effort to match them to the wounds on Garza's head.
Okay.
So why'd you drag the canal then if you're going to ignore the evidence you get?
Well, why even do it then? Why just say it's cool to do murder and just stop investigating the crime. Stop wasting the money. Just go after the jaywalkers. Because why even do it? Why even go? Mm-hmm. God fucking damn it. Okay, keep going. I know this one's going to be a hard one.
So police learned that about 3 weeks before Irene's murder, another young Hispanic woman, Maria America Guerrera, had been attacked in a nearby church. And wouldn't you know it, she identified John Feit as her attacker.
Are they going to do anything with that?
No. They did eventually charge him with the assault on Maria. They finish out the case. It's a hung jury. And so rather than do a second case, John Feit pleads no contest to aggravated assault and is given a whopping $500 fine.
Wow.
And nothing happens in the murder of Irene Garza. Fast forward to 2002, my dogs.
That's so long.
42 years later. So the McAllen Police Department asked the Texas Rangers Cold Case Unit to reinvestigate Irene's murder. And it's not really clear if they reopened the case and then this witness came forward, or if the witness came forward and that's why the case was reopened. So I'm not quite sure of the timeline there, but they have a witness, a former monk named Dale Tatchney. I'm just going to call him Dale.
Yeah.
He tells police, this is in 2002, he tells police that way back in 1963, John Feit had admitted to killing a young woman on an Easter weekend. They also had another priest that had either overheard or had been confessed to, who was a witness. And the district attorney at the time didn't find them credible.
Really?
So the case went nowhere.
Really? So they went to the police about it.
Yes. After 40 plus years, this monk and other priest, who was not named, came forward, told their story, and the district attorney didn't think they were credible. So nothing happened. The DA, again, his name is Rene Guerrera. He has the same last name as that first victim, Maria, who John Feit was actually pled no contest and then had the $500 fine. They have the same last name. I don't think there's any relation. So this DA, this is a direct quote. Quote, "Her killer got away. Where are you going to find the evidence? I reviewed the file some years back. There was nothing there. Can it be solved? Well, I guess if you believe pigs can fly, anything is possible. Why would anyone be haunted by her death? She died. Her killer got away."
Why would anyone be haunted by her death? Are you kidding me? She has family. She has friends. She had people who she had so many students that she taught and bought supplies for. Are you kidding me? You should be haunted by her death. You should be haunted by every fucking death that you treat in such a horrible manner.
Isn't that just disgusting?
It's so disgusting.
You're a prosecutor. You're a district attorney. And you just are saying like, oh, we don't care about this woman's death. Like, why would anybody care about that? It happened so long ago.
Jeez, God. That's horrible. That's so calloused and like such a horrible way to treat a case like this, because there are cold case units all across the country whose job it is to catch killers after decades. And guess what? It happens. It happens.
It is possible.
It's rare, but it does happen.
And to just say like, oh, there's no point. You don't need to say that. You don't need to publicize that. Like,
yeah.
Have you ever had it? Like, just like as a on a human level, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Public servant perspective, like, how do you think that makes you look? Like, why would you ever say that to the media? Or like, I just don't know. This was 2002.
I mean, I know it was a different time back then, but God, that's a monstrous thing to say. And I would like to think that even in 2002, which was not that long ago, people would have found that abhorrent to say. And their family, of course, the family would be following any news about
updates on the case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And since there haven't been any, yeah. And this is the first update they get in what did you say?
40 years.
40 years.
Exactly.
It's some fucking asshole with his thumb up his ass saying, "It's not doable. I don't want to do it because it's hard. Who cares? Nobody misses her anyway."
I just don't know why you would say that on any level. So, like I kind of talked about, there was a 48 hours investigation. The broadcast is called The Last Confession, and it initially aired in 2014, and it kind of reinvigorated interest in the case. And lo and behold, soon after that, a new district attorney was elected who promised to look into the case.
Who actually did give a shit. Yay! We love someone who gives a single solitary shit about their job.
And so, finally, in February 2016,
oh my God,
John Feit, former priest, was arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona, and charged with murder.
Hell yeah. How old was he?
Don't worry, he dies at some point in this. He died in 2020, burying the lead a little bit. And I think those articles about his death said he was in his 80s or 90s.
I mean, I love it. I love when
it's like the Golden State Killer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you see this like kind of small old man in court, and you like your brain wants to be like, oh, he could never do anything bad. And people sometimes have similar mindsets to that DA where it's like, well, this happened so long ago. Why does it matters? It matters matters to the family. It matters to the community because this case really shook people in the community. Like, this was a well-respected member of the community and the church, like, and she was going to confession and she never came home.
Yeah.
Like, people were shocked by that. And then she was just failed so many ways.
Yeah, the church, I think, should be a place where you're safe. And especially in something like confession, you should be safe when you are vulnerable. And this man took advantage of her and took her life and took her away from her family, her community, took away her bright future. And, you know, he had all those years to think about it. And then when he thought he would never be caught, there
was
you
a
go.
shift in district attorneys and somebody gave a shit.
Yeah.
And then he was arrested. Like, literally, that's what it took.
Thank God for people who give a shit, though.
So his trial was set for 2017 for the murder of Irene Garza. And at this point, prosecutors are getting just so many records. They're subpoenaing a lot of John Feit's former religious orders. So here's where we're going to get into the nitty gritty of things a little bit of what happened after Irene was murdered. Oh my God, prepare yourself. It somehow gets worse. So they subpoenaed the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate, OMI for short. Included in this record release was a typed letter from a Father J.F. Pawlicki. I want to say like Paw Liquor. And it was written to the head of the southern region of the OMI's, Father Lawrence Seidel. It's dated August 1st, 1970, about 3 months after Irene's murder and after her body was found. I will say, I'm going to read an excerpt of this letter. It never mentions John Feit by name.
Okay.
Quote, "The prosecution must be made to see just how weak their case is, lest they go off half-cocked and set the wheels in motion that would bring this out in public print and give the opponents of the church a field day. After 3 or 4 months, or even less if possible, have this young man transferred to another part of the country as a normal obedience. He feels that everyone knows that priests are always being transferred around, so this would not be strange. After some time in his new place, a year or two, then have him sent out to a foreign mission. The reason for the first move is to get him out of the area of suspicion. If something happens, the officers of the area will always be suspicious of him. The sheriff concludes that the longer time we have, the weaker the case gets."
Jeez.
I'm going to say that again. The longer time we have, the weaker the case gets. He has much experience in such things, and I believe this is extremely wise. He also is a Catholic.
Oh.
And he also stands to lose materially by such a scandal here in such a non-Catholic area.
I mean,
Even if this isn't about John Feit,
it's very bad.
What are you saying?
It's almost worse if it's not. Then there's another one just floating around. That is horrendous. That is horrendous. That is, yeah. I think that many people in the true crime community have heard of priests being moved around within the Catholic Church for various crimes. But it's really still quite shocking to hear it in print, you know?
Yeah. Also in August 1960, church records show that Father John Feit spent about 2 weeks in a church-run medical center in St. Louis called the Alexian Brothers Hospital and Dispensary. And then...
Not that kind of dispensary.
No, it's not. Not at all. Quote, "In that era, from the 60s and even before that into the 70s and 80s, when bishops had bad actors among the priests, including sexual abuse, they would send priests to specialized healthcare facilities. In this case, Alexian Brothers. They took in priests and promised anonymity."
Wow. So there are just whole organizations dedicated to protecting these predators.
Yes. Under the guise of helping them or getting them medical attention.
Sure.
About a month later, he got sent back to Alexian Brothers, and a OMI official wrote, quote, "We are sincerely grateful for your past gracious handling of our good Father Feit and we assure you that taking him in on the same conditions as previously will in no way jeopardize the good name of your institution or bring it any detrimental publicity.
I mean, why do they want to keep in these bad people so badly?
I think because admitting that there's a problem to them, any problem is worse. They think that letting this come out is going to shake faith in the Catholic Church when really they should be concerned about protecting victims.
Yeah, who are all also Catholics.
Yeah.
For the most part. They're doing it to other Catholics, other people of devout faith who are also, in their eyes, children of God.
And somehow they make it make sense in their puny minds. It's horrific.
Yeah, I can't pretend to understand it.
By 1963, Father Feit had been moved again to Assumption Abbey in Missouri.
Well, you know what happens when you assume.
You make an ass out of everything that I have ever stood for.
Yeah.
This is where he met Dale Tatchney, who we talked about briefly in the previous, part of the story. Dale, reminder, he, at this time in 1963, he is a monk serving as a, quote, novice master at the monastery, and he was training new, prospective monks. This is where John Feit and Dale Tatchney, meet. Tatchney is later going to be the guy in 2002 that comes forward and tells police about John Feit. But at this time in 1963, Dale was asked by his superiors at Assumption Abbey to counsel John Feit. He knew that John Feit had murdered a woman. So Dale Tatchney says, and this all comes, from his interviews in 2002, talking about his time in this abbey in 1963. Dale was a young monk. He's this novice master training prospective monks. He knows that Father Feit murdered a young woman, but was not given any other details about it other than from John Feit as the years went on. I guess it wasn't years. He says that he counseled John Feit for about 6 months. And during that time, John Feit said that he attacked a young woman following her confession. He allegedly said that he kept her captive overnight and left her to suffocate. Yeah. I think that he was leaving that night over and over to either cover up what he had done or to go do just disgusting things to her. I don't know. It's just sick. John Feit told Dale that he eventually dumped her body in a canal, but Dale apparently never asked for her name. Yeah. This guy coming forward in 2002, and then testifying later at his eventual trial, did help lead to the conviction. But, it's just hard because he sat on this for 40 years plus. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know the priests are supposed to keep things to themselves, confession-wise, but I think when it's a murder, you gotta take that to the police ASAP.
So this is wild to me. This isn't a quote from the 2002 police interview that Dale gave. Quote, "While I knew that Father Feit had committed the murder, I felt that my primary function with Father Feit was to see if perhaps he ultimately might not have a vocation to become a monk in the monastery." I'm sorry, we want a murderer as a monk in our monastery?
Yeah, I don't think the other monks are gonna like that very much. I wouldn't if I were a monk. That is horrendous. Turn him in. Don't make him a monk.
Yeah, I don't understand it. So now we're up to 1964. It's been more than 4 years since Irene's murder. John Feit heads to a facility in New Mexico called the Servants of the Paraclete. It's a monastery for troubled priests. This monastery was founded in 1947. Early visitors came from a variety of issues, it said. Some just, had substance abuse issues, and others were confessing to sexual abuse.
Cool. We just have this long multiple long-standing institutions to cover up the crimes of these men. Cool time.
Yeah. So this servants of the Paraclete is described as a last resort for the worst priests. One of the authors referred to it as Supermax because
Jeez.
that's where you go. That's like your last stop before you get kicked out, apparently, which is like, just kick them out.
To
Just kick them out.
Yeah. For fuck's sake. Come on.
Motherfucker spent 7 years there. And by 1968, so a few years after he had arrived, he was given the position of superior, supervising up to 80 priests at a time.
Cool. Great. Let's give this guy power.
Yeah,
that's
so
a great idea.
In case you're having trouble keeping up, John Feit is in charge of counseling other troubled priests at this fucking place that is the supermax for the worst priests that you can have.
Yes, I'm sure he has much wisdom to share.
One of these young priests was a man from Massachusetts named James Porter. He arrived in 1967 following multiple complaints of child abuse in Massachusetts. An attorney that represented more than a dozen of James Porter's victims, Mike Reck, said, quote, "Porter was one of the most dangerous and depraved sexually offensive priests ever. The reality that Father Feit, himself a criminal, was placed in a position of power, supervision, and direction of other criminal priests is a public safety nightmare."
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. A public safety nightmare sounds about right.
Yeah. Porter and this horrible shitbag, James Porter and John Feit worked together for 1.5 years. John Feit would send him off to churches in the summertime if they needed help with, staffing, whatever. He said, quote, this is John Feit's writing from 1969, quote, "We receive a large number of requests for supply work during the summer, and I have not hesitated to call upon Father Porter in each of these instances. He is a willing worker and gets along well with pastors and people wherever he goes. Thus far, there has been no occurrence of the problem which plagued Father Porter in the past."
Great. I'm so glad that while you're sending this child predator off to be in close proximity, probably to children, because children are always running around church in the summertime, that nothing bad happened. Good job.
He finished off saying, quote, "I wish that all of these favorable circumstances could give me leave to write Porter off as cured. But that is the domain of the professional, not myself."
Okay.
Oh, but later on, when James Porter is arrested, John Feit's going to claim he was unaware of any of this abuse.
Sure. Great. Cool.
Yeah. We're almost done here. In 1972, John Feit left the church, got married, and had children and grandchildren.
Wow. He gets to have a whole life.
He had a whole life. He was an insurance salesman. The peak of luxury.
Yeah, wow. I'm really glad we stopped this guy from going to prison.
So in 2002, things are dredged up again when the investigation is reopened and Dale Tachney comes forward with the information that he had. But again, nothing happens. And then 14 years later, in 2016, John Feit is finally arrested.
Wow.
And then he is sentenced to life in prison at the end of 2017 for the murder of Irene Garza. And I buried the lead. He died in 2020 in February of cardiac arrest.
Not fitting. I wish that he had spent decades in jail.
Yeah. He did not deserve to have a whole life. I did read that his wife and family did not come to the trial. So seems like they disowned him, which I think is fitting.
Good. Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I came across this story and just felt compelled to share it. Unfortunately, I feel like there are echoes of this case in today's world. I feel like there's a culture around protecting these powerful men and not protecting victims. And I wish I could say that we as a society were better and that, we could take this, learn from it, make sure it never happens again, and I wish that were the case, but that's not the way the world looks to me right now.
Well said, Katelyn. Thank you for bringing this story, as difficult as it was to listen to and to tell. Yeah, I think it's very important that everyone remember where your morals are, because people, these powerful men that Katelyn is talking about who perpetrate crimes against children, against women, they're, through all of this being in the media so much, they're going to try to erode your morals around this. And they're going to try to erode your strong reaction to these things. And what you feel is moral, what you feel is right, and what you feel the consequences should be. And, I just want you to keep stories like this, in your mind, and know that there are so many systems of power set up to protect these predators, and that these predators need to be brought out into the light, and they need to be punished for what they've done to people.
Yeah, I don't care how old they are.
Yeah.
Parade that grandpa.
The older, the
all
better.
All up and down the court.
I love when they catch an old man.
He's like, what?
Who, me? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you. Fuck you.
Yeah, fucking the Golden State Killer and his fucking, walker. There's also this, there's this, con man. He's not, really old, but his name is Nicholas Rossi, and he always, shows up in the courtroom with a different, weird medical device that he's a con man. But I love it when these old men get caught, because it's horrible that they've had their whole lives, after they've done these crimes, but they've had to sit with this their whole lives and wonder if it's coming down the pipe sometime, or they've put it out of their minds. That's not them anymore. They're doing whatever. They got away with it.
I'm a family man.
Yeah. It's no, there's no statute of limitations on this. They're coming for your ass whenever they can find it.
Yeah. And genealogy is an amazing, DNA is amazing. These tools, they're coming for you, motherfuckers. And yeah, anybody that could think that no one cares about these cold cases, it was so long ago, what does it matter? Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. And that's someone's daughter, that's someone's sister, that's friends, that's a teacher, that's a woman who had a whole life to do the things that she was passionate about, and you robbed the world of her, and you robbed her of a chance to be the spark that she was in her community. And I don't think that you get to sit in your old man lazy boy chair and forget about that. You get to sit in prison till your heart gives out.
Exactly. He was in prison for about 3 or 4 years, and
not
long enough. But he got 50 years. Yeah, he got 50. To have children. He got to have a family. Yeah. One of the things that I think I glazed over because it's just gross. He told Dale Tachney that he was triggered by the sound of their high heels, and he just liked attacking women. And so my thing is, he didn't just stop after he murdered Irene. Yeah, I don't know. It's horrific.
It's horrific that he told somebody and then still was able to be free and walking around and doing whatever the fuck he wanted. Even if they sent him to these troubled priest institutions, that's not prison.
No, that's not a punishment. I think the implication is that the church and the local police may have colluded to be oh, he's not going to go to jail. He's going to be punished in the church and we'll take care of it. I don't know if that actually happened, but that letter that we read earlier kind of made it the sheriff's Catholic and he knows what the fuck he's talking about. I just, you don't know how high up this goes, and it's just really, it's scary.
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully, by these cases coming to light and, talking about them and remembering the victims, that we can start to change people's minds about these systems.
God, I hope so.
Well, thank you again for bringing us through that, Katelyn.
Of course. I hope you guys learned something. And I think we need to do some lighter topics coming up.
Yeah. Lighter topics on the Bone podcast.
It's about to be spring.
The flowers are blooming. The trees are singing. The birds are hatching their third heads.
Excuse me. I lost my shit just now. Well, we love you guys.
Yeah, and we hope that the springtime is bringing good things for you. And we hope that you take a little bit of time to appreciate your bones.
Appreciate those bones, for real. Use it or lose it.
And as always,
Bon voyage.
You went high.
Tricked you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter,
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
at Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.